going live in 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year from the All in Loyalty podcast. All things loyalty, all in one place. It has been a while, not gonna lie. We're already getting actually closer towards the end of January at this point, but we did want to do a sort of Happy New Year, Happy Beginning of the Year episode. Just because there's so much going on. We had done a bit of a recap sort of thing with everything that had happened in the year, and now we want to dive a little bit into the predictions. But first, it's been a while. A lot has happened, both behind the scenes, personally and business-wise, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, it's been a busy couple of months. But what I will say is that on my side, we had a great New Year celebration. We also dove straight back into the work and everything. It's been some crazy times, but honestly, I'm very, very happy with what we've been able to accomplish, not to mention how much I've been able to sort of learn in the past 2 weeks. But all in all, yeah, industry-wise, there have been so many little articles and predictions and little things that are going around. What is the loyalty industry going to be looking like? What are the biggest trends going to be in 2026? Everybody seems to have different opinions. There's a couple of parallel narratives that some people seem to be agreeing on. In general, though, we do have a pretty big list. And what we're going to be doing is taking all of those lists that everybody else has made, putting them all together, and actually voting on them ourselves to make sure that we are agreed on which ones are actually important and which ones are more media fluff pieces. But in the meantime, first and foremost, Gabriele, how are you doing? How have your holidays been? How are things now that we're back and working for a couple of weeks again?
What holidays?
That's the CEO answer. I knew it. Excellent.
That was good. No, we also had some holidays. Spent some really nice quality time with the family. Had so much food. It's incredible. As a proper Italian family, during Christmas and New Year's, we cooked a lot, but it was really good. It was nice to see Gianluca and also our younger brother again. They came both to Switzerland, so that was really nice. And in between, honestly, worked. There's so much stuff going on that we kept working, basically the whole team. The year started like crazy, like literally. There was no. Usually there is a January hole, like in the sense that it's like if people are coming back from holidays, it's super slow, etc. And the feeling that literally from the 5th of January on, when we all started again, like it just went bam, bam, bam. So, which is really good. I love it because then you don't feel that like it's not like lagging and you have to wait until everybody's here. So that was amazing. A lot of good results already in the first month. It's actually crazy that we already have the 27th of January. So that we're already at the end of January. But yeah, otherwise, everything really good. And excited about this episode.
Fantastic. Awesome. And Gianluca, I'm guessing then probably similar story to you. And with the added question, do you guys celebrate more New Year's and Christmas like the Italian way or the Swiss way, since you guys are like a little bit of both? And in what direction does it tend to go?
I would say more the Italian way, but it's certainly like it is a bit of an in between. Food wise, we do both, Italian style and Swiss style. Yeah, it was pretty much as Gabriele mentioned, since we're brothers and we celebrated it together. And yeah, I would say that the year started off pretty fast, as Gabriele said. On the one hand, yeah, it's crazy that it's already end of January, 1 month already over out of 12. But at the same time, it also feels like this month has been a long month, since there's so much that has been achieved, so much that has been going on. So yeah, while it is already the end of January, it feels like quite a bit has been accomplished already. So that's obviously an amazing start to the year.
It really does feel that way. And for a lot of people, like I was talking to my brother, for example, and he was saying how it still sort of feels like beginning of the year to him, because like 2 of his colleagues in his team are still on vacation. And so they're still doing everything slightly like more slowly. And it's just like, okay, yeah, sounds cool. Good for you. Nice. Should I tell you what I've been up to? But yeah, it's been cool. And honestly, I prefer it this way, I would argue, because it just feels like Gabriela said, just feels like such a nice, seamless transition from one thing into the next. Everybody had like their sort of allocated days, and when we're back, it's just like straight back into the fire, basically. I have a very positive, motivating fire, is what I mean to say, of course. But yeah, before we get started, we do have a little bit of a warm-up round because, like I said, it's been a bit of a while for us, and we do need to get back into the swing of things. And just recently, as of recording this episode, 27th of January, just 1 or 2 days ago, we had a bit of interesting news and a very curious topic that we can already sort of do a little warm-up round with before we get into the predictions. And that is, we're getting a little bit into the crypto and stablecoin sector. Wait, that's the wrong one. There we go. We are going to be talking just a little bit about the Clarity Act. Just showing you this headline right now. U.S. Senate bill draws line on stablecoin rewards. Now, to set the stage, there has been a big push from the White House on stablecoin and crypto regulation, trying to build some of these basic fundamentals that allows companies to actually start working with these digital assets seamlessly. And of course, the biggest and most sensible focus in the beginning of that, which we saw then being executed in 2025, was stablecoins. So in particular, the Circle and Tether stablecoins, which you've probably heard of at some point before, USDC and USDT. We saw the Genius Act come out last year, which was essentially laying the foundational groundwork for how these coins are able to and allowed to operate within the US, how companies approach them, how banks approach them, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to get into too much detail on that here, just because that would be an entire episode all on its own. But what we're seeing now is that there was a bit of a loophole, not a loophole, but there was a pretty big point that the Genius Act left out, which was the rewards section. And of course, with that comes a lot of people either trying to take advantage of it or just using something and assuming that it was intentional. But that means that there is the Clarity Act. So this is still in the drafts, so nothing has passed yet. And we've already seen it causing a lot of uproar, controversy, pushback from a lot of different entities from different sides of the table. So to put it very basically, you have the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act, saying that platforms cannot pay yield just for parking stablecoins. Rewards stay allowed only when users do something active, like providing liquidity or helping run a network. So this just means essentially you cannot just buy and hold. You have to actually be doing a little something with this token, with whatever these tokens end up being. This has already been seeing some support by the banks and has been seeing some pushback by some of the crypto exchanges, Coinbase seemingly having been the biggest, the most vocal sort of resistant to the current version of this act. But to start off, I mean, let's get some basic feedbacks and maybe some general impressions from you guys. Gabriela, maybe let's start with you. What do you think about this? What do you think the pushback is warranted? Do you agree or disagree? How's it looking on your side when it comes to stablecoin rewards?
I mean, I think in general, obviously, when I was watching yesterday the podcast, basically the All In podcast, the one that inspired us to actually make the All In Loyalty podcast, and they were talking with the founder of USDC and basically discussing the different approaches that the government has to create a clear framework around stablecoins. And the founder also said, like, they're talking with a lot of different banks. So on one side, they clearly know stablecoins are coming, and as he explained it, it's basically at the end of the day, said very simple, money for the internet, right? So you have basically a form of cash that actually behaves the same way as we're used to, say, going online and using different services. So everything is instant, everything is programmable, etc. So from that perspective, banks like it. From the other perspective, I think they see it also as a threat if suddenly you as a stablecoin provider or an exchange, etc., can give different yields. And basically, my feeling is that they fear that the money goes from their bank to the stablecoin and then is on another exchange, meaning they lose assets under management, which no bank wants. On the other side, what I find the most interesting, and that's actually what surprised me, they talked for sure around 20. I mean, that interview was like an hour, and they talked for sure around 20 minutes about how can you actually use rewards to basically give people so that instead of the yield. So I think that was the very interesting part, because when you see that this kind of usually you have brands that actually issue rewards to their customers, right? So you have a very narrow form in that sense of being rewarded. So I use my credit card, I fly, etc., and I get my miles, my points, and so on. In this case, it's literally attached to the US dollar. So that's what I think makes it really crazy, because you suddenly, and as you said, like you have to do something with it, right? So it's not just you can park the USDC and then get something. But it's crazy if you think about that. Suddenly, every move that you make with your money can get rewarded, first of all, and second of all, it will be super interesting to see how does it actually evolve. Like, is it classic loyalty program where you get some points, like USDC points as an example, and then you can start exchanging them in miles and in other kind of let's say rewards. So I think from that perspective, I'm super curious to see how it will evolve, and I just find it generally interesting how the whole loyalty market and rewards market basically gets this, I would say, huge push, because it's on a completely different level. Again, usually people don't talk that much about points, etc., because it's not something that is on such a high level. But now with the whole USDC, or let's say stablecoin movement, I think there will be a huge, honestly, push for the whole rewards market and the loyalty market. So super interesting to observe now how everything will evolve. And they also said it was a big topic actually at the WEF in Davos last week, where they were really talking with the different banks, governments, etc., how to manage these kind of rewards, and also again managing expectations from banks, because at the end of the day, new technologies are always get a pushback at the beginning, until people warm up and understand that it's inevitable, and then basically just have to take it. So I'm really curious to see how this will evolve, and super excited to see how we can also play a role in this whole thing. So I already started to manifest how we get a message from USDC, guys. We need your points exchange infrastructure.
I was just talking about how, or just thinking about like everything that you mentioned, USDC points and everything like that, and I was just thinking like, if only there was a sort of loyalty point blockchain-based infrastructure that was out there that they could go to. I mean, no names come to mind, right? Oh man, but that's incredible. And it's really interesting, again, from a validation perspective, because people had been, again, the general public had been writing off crypto and stablecoins and stuff like that for the longest time, just to realize now that entire banks, entire countries, entire regulations are being brought out around them. Not to mention the sort of perfect storm scenario it feels like we're in right now, where when I was looking at all of these, predictions and statistics and stuff from 2025 and looking forward into 2026, how many people that are like, C-suites at big companies that are talking about how their loyalty program and their reward structures are like among their number one or number two, like highest priorities looking forward, and how they want to actually reward their users. If you combine that with all of the sort of crypto regulation that's going on, it sort of feels like a crazy, interesting watershed moment when it comes to the sort of these narratives coming together. And by the way, it just makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, we've heard so many people talk about this. If you want to reward people for transactions and whatever, what better way to have the sort of transparency and the data and everything than to have it on the blockchain, right? It makes a lot of sense. That's what a lot of people have been talking about. But I would love to get some general impressions also from you, Gianluca, and maybe we compare that with the first prediction of the year about whether or not you think the bill in its current form will pass, and what do you think the in which direction otherwise you think it might go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my thoughts when I heard about this, honestly, just before the podcast, I wasn't so tuned into the whole political talks in Davos. I had two initial thoughts. On the one hand, I'm not surprised that the banks are in with this, because on the one hand, this is not a new topic. Honestly, it's just a new technology. We've in the banking system in the past, you've had that plenty of years where you could have a savings account, and on that savings account, you would receive a certain interest rate on your money, and you earn passively on that money, right? Maybe not crazy percentages, but still something. Nowadays, that doesn't exist anymore. You're actually paying money to keep your money in banks nowadays. So they don't have that anymore. And also considering how competitive the crypto market is with these exchanges, and I'm again also not surprised that Coinbase and others, probably Binance and other bigger exchanges, are against it, is because that's exactly the competitive advantage that they may offer over the other exchanges, is to say, hey, why don't you bring your USDT to us, or you have account on our exchange and earn maybe twice the percentage, or maybe not twice, but maybe 50% more yield on your USDT that you're parking on our exchange than on the other exchanges. And the crypto market, or the people who use cryptocurrencies more often on a daily basis, they're used to this movement. They're used to most likely having 3 or 4 or 5 exchange accounts, and wherever they have the highest yield, they move their USDT. Because in the end of the day, to move the USDT, it doesn't cost really that much. It's a few cents fees, and you just hold them there. You earn whatever percentage you want to earn, and if the exchange lowers it and somewhere else it's higher, you go over there. So that is a very, very fast and very liquid way of using your assets, even though they're parked, so to say, right? And banks, as Gabriele mentioned, they don't really like that. They want the money to be parked on their account so that they can manage that money and make money off of that money. And that actually brings me to the second thought that I had regarding these yields, and the fact that they want to put some regulation around that also makes sense to me, because in the end, we've had this topic so many times, and it's always the same. How do you reward your users? You reward your users by putting aside a certain percentage of revenue from actual earnings, and you give it back to your users in form of cashback, in form of points, in form of experiences. But it does come from somewhere. It is money earned in some way or another, unless you are willing to, I don't know, make a campaign and give out value in that sense on top of what is earned. But it does come from somewhere. And in finance, that's exactly how banks were able back then to give interests, and how exchanges are able to give yields on parked stablecoin, is because they're using those USDT to actually earn more yield than what they give out to users. And because the crypto market is so volatile, the yields are also so high, because they're able to make so much more money, because there's so much volume going through these exchanges. So if you have regulated exchanges, I don't think there's that much of a need of regulating these yields, because you would, I'd say, hope that these regulated bigger exchanges, they know what they're doing with your money, just like banks know what they're doing with your money. So you expect that when you want to get your money out, you're able to, and it's not the bank or the exchange saying, hey, hold on, I'm working with your money, I can't give it to you right now. And then you're like, hey, what the hell's going on? So I'm sure that big exchanges are regulated and there's something in place that allows for your parked USDT or USDC coins to be liquidated. But going forward, if stablecoins really become such a big topic in the next few years, if there's more, not exchanges, but more companies, more businesses going up that offer yields on your USD, on your stable coins that you park with them, who's to say that they manage your money correctly and are able to pay out the yield and don't lose you the money? Because if they mess up royally and it's a business, or it's, it's a boutique exchange or something like that, if they mess up, and they're not regulated in some specific way, that's why banks have banking licenses and it's very harshly regulated, is that there is that security. And I think that's probably also part of the topic. I mean, I don't know, honestly, if they also want to protect users at all, if that's a use case. But I would see that also as something that could help a lot of people, especially when you don't know what stable coins are, even though it's just digital fiat. You don't know how to manage that. And you see, oh, wow, this business is offering me 25% yearly yield on my USDC. Let me put 10K on that account. And then 3 weeks later, it's not there anymore. And you wonder why. And, so I see both sides. And yeah, maybe to conclude and to give a prediction, I believe that on the stablecoin side, no doubt about it. I mean, they're already here since years, and it's just becoming more and more public. That's why it's even in these headlines. That's why it's even discussed at a politically significant event like in Davos. So they're definitely coming, and they're definitely here to stay. And in terms of this act or this bill going through, I would say if it will go through, it'll take a bit of time, because there's going to be so much pushback from exchanges where they want to know exactly if this bill goes through, how it's going to go through, and what kind of wiggle room or what kind of play room they have to give to their users. It's hard to say, like, these predictions. It's hard to say, because on the one hand, I want to say yes, it's going to go through, because it's still, if it's discussed on this kind of level, there's like all the leaders of the world are coming together to discuss this. There's something to it, so it's important enough that they want to bring it through, but it's not going to be immediate, that's for sure.
I mean, it's not to mention that the fact that, when they're having these conversations, they're also talking about, they'll want to push it forward, because they always talk about, especially Americans, their chief business and economic rival, which is China, and how many efforts and how much progress they're actually making in the CBDC territory, the central bank digital currency sort of area. It's also very important. But the prediction that you made actually aligns very well with the other part of this article with Yahoo Finance, that actually talks about how people are assuming that the bill is going to stall for many of the reasons that you actually mentioned, as well as the midterms that are coming up and everything like that. So there's like quite a number of reasons that there would be to actually push this sort of bill back. And in general, I mean, that's how it works for most bills, right? It's very rare that the first version of a bill ends up getting passed unanimously and just goes straight into play. It's just generally a topic that takes a lot of time, because it usually involves two parties and taking something away from one party and giving it to another. So that's just how these conversations are going to go. I guess the question is probably more how visceral these conversations are going to get, or if there's going to be some sort of amicable conclusion that can be reached then between the exchanges and the banks, because it does feel like that's what these top two players seem to be. But yeah, for now, the big conclusion at the bottom, expect stablecoin rewards to look more like earn by doing than earn by holding. That is in its current phase. It is, of course, liable to change. There will be various rewards that come out. We're going to be posting the link to the article in the description. Of course, every article that you see, we're going to be posting the sources of them beneath, so that you can take a look for yourself. But yeah, definitely an interesting situation. And I don't know if you guys have any sort of conclusions about this one, any sort of final thoughts before we move on to our prediction show?
No, I'm just very excited to see how this evolves and what role we can play in it.
It's been really crazy how vocal the CEO of Coinbase has been about this entire thing. They seem to be very, very invested in this story. I mean, it makes sense. Of course it does.
Obviously.
But yeah, as like the biggest, I guess they are sort of the biggest American exchange. It makes a lot of sense for them to be very vocally active towards this. So yeah, that has been there. And we're going to see how it plays out, and we're going to follow and of course keep updating based on what we see. But for now, we need to move on to the main event. We don't necessarily have a crazy amount of time, although we have a decent amount. So we're going to see how we get. But basically what we did was, like I mentioned in the beginning of the show, we had a little poll between the three of us where we talked about what our predictions are going to be for loyalty moving forward. This has been sort of an amalgamation of some of the headlines that we've seen. There have been countless articles and papers predicting what loyalty is going to be looking like based on what we've seen, gaining momentum in 2025 versus what experts tend to assume is going to be happening in 2026. There's a wide range of things. It ranges from, some more basic statistical things to some trends and movements that we've seen moving forward. But without any further ado, I think it is time to push forward with the results of this poll. We're going to start off with the unanimous decisions. This is then the 4 points. There have been 4 points that were voted for by all three of us. I think it's not that surprising what they are, but let's just pull them up now. So what are your top 10 loyalty trend predictions for 2026? The 4 headlines or the 4 predictions that got that were unanimously voted for were: number 1, emotional loyalty, rewarding customers outside of transactional context. Number 2, instant rewards, delivering real-time gratification. The subscription loyalty trend, which is literally, you're paying a subscription in order to get some of these things for these perks. And rewards as currency, no surprise there either. That's sort of the business that we're all in, so it makes a lot of sense. We see increased liquidity in rewards functioning more and more like digital cash. So we can sort of dive into these one by one. In general, though, I do think it is interesting that, a lot of these have been topics in previous podcasts. I think we've had segments on each and every one of these. But let's just dive into them one by one and sort of get into why we think it was such a big sort of, unanimous decision from all of us. We were talking about with our recap episode, last episode, what our sort of summary or predictions in one word of 2026 would be. My word was emotional loyalty. And the reason for that being sort of that for me, and what Gabriela and Gianluca have mentioned multiple times already, has also been that the true loyal consumer is the one that sticks with the brand, whether it's doing well, whether it's doing poorly, that stick to a brand because of its values, because of its what it stands for, in addition to what it can give you, right? That's what a lot of other sort of loyalty experts or influencers or KOLs will say, is that the loyalty aspect or the rewards should be the byproduct of the thing and not the reason that people are a part of it. So that was definitely an interesting one for me. I think we are sort of seeing that more and more, and we're seeing some interesting sort of novelty practices done by businesses as they are experimenting with different ways to get people emotionally invested in the companies to become some of these consumers. Who would like to start with this one when it comes to emotional loyalty? Maybe Gianluca, let's start with you over here. With the emotional loyalty side of things, are you surprised that the three of us voted for this, or is this kind of just a pretty clear-cut kind of a given in this scenario?
No, I think it's pretty. I'm just looking at all 4. I was not surprised, to be honest. That we all picked them. This one here, if I remember correctly, when I was going through all the poll options, I do think, if I remember correctly, that I was thinking twice about this one because I wasn't 100% sure at first, because there's a few other ones that were also very relevant. But then in the end, I did pick it in the end because as the title says, it's rewarding customers outside the transactional context, where it's not just about you pay a certain amount of money and you or buy products, and you receive points, and you just keep doing that over and over and over again. That's very passive in a way. You don't really think about that. It's a product you need, you buy it, you get points. Okay, cool. And when you have enough points, you get something with it. But wanting to involve customers in more than just buying products, but also, as some of the suggestions here, trying new product, participating in surveys, giving feedback, having more data from your customers. Writing product reviews maybe is a bit on the edge, to be honest, because if you get rewarded for writing a product review, it's a bit of a different story. But attending events, you involve the customer into, as you said at the beginning, into your brand. It's not just about you purchasing products and getting rewarded, but it's getting to know the brand. And maybe that's something that customers wouldn't do initially because they don't think about it. But if there's a reward attached to it that sparks that interest, where you're like, oh, cool, I get 100 points extra for trying this new product because it's something that they just launched, let me give it a shot, or attending an event, hey, I get 1,000 points for being part of this event, why not, let me check it out. And then you go to the events, you interact with the brand in a deeper level than just buying their products or services, and you actually get to know the brand, and you actually have a chance to build that kind of brand loyalty that, as you said, goes beyond whether the brand is doing well, the business is doing well, whether they're doing not so well. You stick to the brand, you're behind the brand in all cases. And I think this is something where, it kind of bridges that gap between people just buying products and services to having a little bit of a spark of interest on what else does this brand do outside of those products and services.
I feel like one of the best examples when it comes to the brand loyalty or the emotional loyalty sector has been, and I'm extremely biased, but Red Bull, because I did work there for a little while. But when it comes to that sort of sector, they don't necessarily reward their customers, but what they do is they go above and beyond being a traditional energy drink, and they go and carve out a place in people's minds that actually hits at those emotions. So they'll still do a lot of these big, like they have Wings for Life, which is the charitable organization, but they also, sponsor tickets for people to go to Formula One races or these big events or whatever. That ends up becoming memorable for those people. But then even for the general public, they'll host these history-making events like Felix Baumgartner, jumping down from space, which everybody was watching at the time. Or they'll open up and host these big events like breakdancing events or whatever it is in South America or in Africa or in places where not people wouldn't necessarily be able to have access to those sort of events normally, suddenly have this chance to earn like crazy amounts of money, and that affects everybody in those communities. It becomes the talk of the town. And so I think it's really interesting that when you think about something like that started off as just a sort of a good, right? It's an energy drink that tastes fine and isn't that bad, and you can mix it with vodka and it does okay. But it ends up being this really interesting like brand that they've been able to build, where people actually like and appreciate and respect it, despite not necessarily actually drinking the drink themselves, right? Like as a high schooler, I drank Red Bull, yes. Nowadays, I don't, but I still follow the brand and I still appreciate everything that they're doing. And I think that's sort of one of those places where any company can kind of aspire to get. So that was kind of my reason for voting for this one. But how about we zoom out again, Gabriele, first of all, and sort of get your impressions on what the unanimous votes were in this case, whether any of them stick out for you. And if you want to dive into whichever one you feel is the most important, we can also open up the topic on that one as well.
I I mean, I agree with all four of them. I think they're pretty logic. I mean, again, emotional loyalty, to be fully honest, when I saw that one, I actually thought more about the emotional reward component. So not like the classic, I get points and I get then whatever I want for it, which is at the end of the day saving money to make it very simple. That's basically kind of getting a deferred discount. That was more thinking about basically getting emotional rewards, which is more in the direction of how they make you let's say how they make you feel special as a customer, meaning that if you achieve a certain status, for example, or if people see that you're always there, you get like special treatment, which at the end of the day is less connected to, it's a classic, let's say, rewards you can't buy, in the sense that you get something that you can't basically get with your points. So that could be, I don't know, let's take very simple. If I have a certain status at an airline, I might see more seats for the miles that I want to get, for the flights that I want to get with my miles, compared to somebody that doesn't have a status, meaning that I get a certain priority or I get a certain privilege when it's about spending my miles itself, or I don't know, they drive me to the airplane because basically I have a certain status, or I have a special lounge access, or all of these things, which are again more connected to giving me a special feeling as a customer, which is different from I just used my points to get a free flight, to get a free gift card, or whatever it is. So I looked at it from that perspective, which again, it's kind of, for me, it's kind of the cherry on the ice cream, because you basically have that. First of all, not everyone gets it because it's always connected to a higher status. On the other side, if looking at the article that you just showed before, again, rewarding customers not just for spending cash, I think it's super important, because at the end of the day, customers do so much more than just spend money with you. They again, they write about you on social media, they tell their friends about you, they maybe review a product, and like you can ask them for let's say you can do product interviews with them, etc. So there's so many more ways how you actually can reward your customers, where they can generate value for you as a company, besides just spending money with you. So from that perspective, that makes a lot of sense. If you go back to the others, I mean, instant rewards, I kind of, like, for me, that's like so obvious. Like today, if you don't do instant rewards, you're just behind, because at the end of the day, everything is so instant today. If you look at new generations, at their attention span and how fast they actually want to get that hit of dopamine, you need to be in that game. Otherwise, you will just lose out to competitors that are just much faster with that.
Do you maybe have like a good example or a shining example of what a good delivery of like instant rewards is? Or is it just the typical sort of, you go to the supermarket at the cashier, they say, hey, would you like this card? You get 100 points if you sign up now, for example.
I think it's less that, but if you check, for example, different points conversion topics, right, where I can convert my points to miles, as an example, with a credit card, there are still some providers that where you literally have to wait 2-3 days until you get your miles. So you automatically create friction, because most people, very simple example, when they plan a trip and they want to book a flight, in that moment, first priority is not how many points do I have where. The first priority is, okay, I need to book a flight because I need to travel there, right? So what I do is I go on the for example on the airlines website, I look for different flights, etc. Then I have the possibility to in that moment I think about how I actually can use my miles as an example to book this flight. Now, in that moment, you have the thought about, I can exchange my credit card points to these miles, so I have more and I can actually book the flight, right? And that happened even like to myself, where I was in that situation, and then you make that transfer, and at the end of the transfer, it tells you these miles will be on your account in the next 2-3 days. Now, there is no way I can book my flight in this moment. So it completely stops my customer journey, right? And it delays it for 2-3 days. And that creates all kinds of problems because the flight might not be there. The flight might be much more expensive in those 2-3 days because more people booked. That is not a process that will be here in the future. Or if it's here, people will just switch from your product to another product because, again, the more we're going forward, the more instant everything needs to be. And I mean, we just talked about stable coins before. Like one of the beauties is that it's 24/7. I don't need to wait. Like if I want to send money to someone on Christmas, and we literally had this Christmas where we're checking out regarding different payments that were incoming that we had to do, etc. I mean, we literally received email from a bank that said, "Hey, from I think we make payments and we receive payments until 10 a.m. in the morning on the 24th." So these kind of blockers completely take away freedom at the end of the day, because you can't really use your money in that moment. So if you want to do a payment, if you need to do a payment, etc., or if you need to receive a payment, there's just no way to do it because there are bank holidays, nobody's working there, no payments are being processed, etc. So I think we will move in general as a society more and more into just instant action. People want everything right now and fast. So for me, the instant reward is a no-brainer. Rewards as a currency is also a no-brainer because at the end of the day, people want to be able to use all their points and their miles. So the more liquidity we create, the more partnerships all these loyalty programs have where I can earn and I can spend my points or miles, the more these, let's say, these loyalty currencies actually become real currencies with real liquidity behind. They're always a closed loop system, but the bigger the loop, the more liquidity I actually get. And the last
maybe
one,
they'll discuss it. Maybe they'll discuss it. I was thinking, just sorry to interrupt you. I was thinking about rewards as a currency and what you're talking about right now. I was thinking, especially in conjunction with the first article headline that we were reading about stablecoins. Maybe this will be a topic in a few Davos events where leaders of the world come together and say, "Hey guys, we need to figure out this whole loyalty points liquidity topic because people are using it as real money."
100%. I mean, that it was already a few times a topic, like how close is it to real money? At the end of the day, it's always a closed loop system. So it's you can use your points or miles only at a certain amount of merchants. Obviously, the bigger that list gets, the more of your needs are being covered. So the closer it actually gets to a currency itself. I think that one is a very clear movement where we're going towards. Subscription loyalty, I think, is the only one where we'll have to see how this is being evolved, because at the end of the day,
I see this so much, though. I see this so much. Even just in the last few months and quarter, you've seen so many loyalty programs where, and pretty big one. I'm not sure if I can't remember exactly, but I think Marriott was one where you could buy the highest tier.
It was IHG.
Or IHG, was it? Okay, for example. I think got the advantage from, these things, to me, that's sort of like piloting subscription. Not to say that it becomes a subscription model, but it is saying, hey, you want the highest tier, here, you pay this much. Which in any moment where you see the benefits from the highest tier and you see how much you're spending for it, if you're an avid user of that loyalty program, it makes a lot of sense, right? So to me, the subscription model, or at least that subscription, it looks like a subscription, can come more and more. Whether they market it like that, like Prime for Amazon is obvious. You pay the Prime subscription, you get all the benefits. But these other programs, I think they'll introduce it slowly, where every now and then, whether it's a campaign or not, but more and more, I think that will come as well. Because as you say, people want instant gratification. I want to be highest tier right now, not
But it's all
in 1 or 2 years. When I've flown 5 million miles.
yeah, but I think it's honestly, it feels a bit like cheating. And the thing is that you need to be very careful as a brand how to price it. Because if I can buy one of the highest tiers for $250 a year, it's basically worth nothing.
Yeah.
So on the other side, if I'm spending all these nights with an hotel to then get a status that is worth $250, it's not that I feel super special. So I think you need to be very careful on how you actually do that. So I'll make an example. Miles and More, you can when you earn your senator status, right? The second year you can buy it, meaning that you can actually not you can buy it, you can extend it for either cash or miles, right? So that is something that has a slightly different approach, because you earned it once. Now maybe you weren't able to fly that much this year, so at the end of the year they give you an offer where you can actually extend your status, right? That feels much more earned on one side. The other side is the pricing topic. Like, generally, if you look at how much you need to spend on flights to get such a status, it is around 20-30K a year that you have to spend to actually get to that status. I mean, obviously you can optimize it depending on which flights you take, etc. But you need still to be quite engaged with that brand and let's say do quite a lot of purchases, etc., to get to a certain status. And I think that as soon as you can buy it, it dilutes the value of that status. And again, it depends and also on the pricing, because if they tell you, hey, look, you can buy a senator status for 30K, okay, now you can decide, do I actually want to fly for 30K or do I want to get it directly for 30K? So if you have those 30K and you're liquid, that's a different story, right? Because you say, I actually want to have all those benefits from the beginning, so I'm fine to spend that kind of money. I think that's a completely different approach. And again, it's kind of a sensitive topic in the sense that you have people that actually earned that reward, and then you have other people that can buy that, like that status, for example, that reward, right? So it's kind of it's kind of been walking on the edge. The other topic, like for example, Prime, I don't see that as a loyalty program, to be fully honest.
Yeah, no,
it's just
not
like you just pay a
it's not-
subscription and you have a package of benefits. Not even benefits,
Yeah.
you have a package of features. That's it.
Yeah.
So that for me is not at all a loyalty program, to be fully honest.
Yeah,
Like,
that's also true. It goes. It's not in the same direction. One thing that I see though with the subscription and what you're saying, I think if they it is 100% a pricing topic, because I agree with you. If you say, but again, that's also up to the person who is willing to spend $250 a year, because that's one loyalty program. If you want it for 10, it's going to cost you $2,500 if they're all priced the same. So not everyone will be saying, I'm going to do that just to get the highest tier. So on the one hand, the pricing topic is, I understand, I completely agree with you on how it's valued, not the pricing topic, because price is that a topic for everyone individually, how much buying power they have, whether the price is good for them or not. But value, I completely agree with you, where there's people who spend 1 year, 2 years to even get to that status by just constantly being part of the loyalty program, and then someone just comes along and is able to buy it for $250 or whatever the price may be. On the one hand, you say, okay, what the heck, they got it for free basically, and I had to spend 1.5 years getting it. At the same time, you can say, okay, I can buy it myself, so I don't have to spend 1.5 years. But I think if they price it, if these topics, if this becomes a topic where it happens more often, I start seeing it a little bit like free games in the gaming world, where you get perks for playing the game for free, whether it's aesthetics, whether it's new characters, whatever it may be, whatever game features features the game has, and you can also unlock those features directly if you buy, though if you spend money, and it sort of becomes, you sort of switch the narrative in that sense, where you don't say, hey, you want to buy the highest tier now for this much. It's, hey, you can get the highest tier for free by completing these tasks, these events, whatever it may be, or you can get it for this amount, and then it's sort of, I think the narrative is then up to the person, is, okay, do I want to spend my time only flying with this airline, only going to this hotel, only buying from this grocery store, or do I want to be more time efficient in maybe in some of the cases and say, okay, I'll just buy the tier here because I'm gonna use it for the whole year, so it's gonna give me the benefits immediately from now, and I don't have to wait because I'm gonna use it anyways for a long time. So I think that is maybe also a narrative switch that could help, but yeah,
I think
it's a question of narrative, I think, of it.
Yeah, I think the conclusion is really about it seems to always be about striking the right balance, right? It's about making everybody's time/money feel valuable, feel like they're actually getting something good out of it. If it's the same level of rewards, then make it so that somebody's time actually seems worth it when somebody still buys in versus the other way around, or even offering a distinction between, the people that are actually frequent users of whatever the product is versus the people that are paying. Maybe have two separate benefits or something like that. Or exactly as you just said, people provide value to a company in different ways. So for games, either that is spending hundreds and hundreds of hours playing the game, which is also already very good for them, versus then actually putting money in or something like that, or buying one of those subscription models. Either way, it's a very, very, it continues to be a very pervasive and very, not pervasive is the wrong word, a very influential factor that comes into a lot of these, I would even say, new businesses and entertainment, especially in sort of the entertainment area and gaming in particular. I think that's the perfect example of that. Guys, are we ready to go into the 2-vote territory so that we can judge and criticize each other for how could you not have voted for this? I'm very looking forward to that.
If we remember which ones we gave a vote to.
I have the data on my screen here, so I can actually look it up.
Nice.
Yes. So let's dive in. All right. So these are the topics that have 2 votes. It's a bit of a bigger list. Number 1, AI savvy consumers extract maximum loyalty value from brands. So there, just the basic thing is people using LLMs and AI agents and whatnot to actually take full advantage of programs where people weren't able to before. Gamification continues to grow. Loyalty will be played, not earned. Also had 2 votes. Currency consolidation and accelerating multi-partner collaboration. So I think this pushing into the whole sort of coalition platforms narrative also has 2 votes. The continuing shift from reward credit cards to debit cards, which we also talked about, I think, 2 episodes ago. We see a spike in novelty strategic brand partnerships after huge successes in 2025. So we did see a lot of those. I think in particular, again, between hotels and airlines, but there have been some other interesting examples as well. Zero friction dominates, points being tracked automatically via linked cards or biometric payments, removing the need to scan or use QR codes. These are the ones with 2 votes. Right off the bat, are there any interesting first impressions from you guys?
Very surprised that the AI topic and the currency consolidation, or let's say strategic partnerships, which is actually our business, didn't get 3 votes.
Wait,
I was gonna ask.
Who didn't vote for that?
I was gonna ask, out of curiosity. I have the feeling that I didn't vote the last 3. Could that be?
Okay, so first of all, Gabriele, for your 2, the guilty one is myself in this case. Apologies, but yes.
saddens me a lot.
Once again, I was approaching this, I guess, more from a sort of consumer direction rather than anything else. I mean, first of all, for the AI savvy consumers extracting loyalty value from brands, I kind of felt like that was a given in a way. And while I do think that's like a big prediction for the future, I also don't see it making headlines or anything like that. I saw some of the other topics as much more likely to gain a lot of media attention and becoming an actual trend versus anything else. But of course, it's very possible that, you never know when the next sort of, Claude AI assistant is going to come out that actually is able to do that, and it becomes a big thing and suddenly everyone's using it. Of course, that's a possibility. When it comes to the currency consolidation and accelerating multi-partner collaboration, I just remembered and dialed back to actually episode 1, I think, when we were talking about payback and our general impressions towards the sort of coalition point systems actually trending a little bit towards the not necessarily completely positive side. I think even you might have said, Gabriela, that you weren't a fan of the way that Payback was doing things. And that sort of, I think, influenced my vote there.
Now it's my fault.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Correct.
No,
so
but
with the
Go
credit
ahead.
to debit cards and the last 3, Gianluca, I think you are exactly correct that those are the 3 that you did not vote for. No, Zero Friction, actually, Gabriela didn't vote for.
Mm.
And
After that,
the
after the
novelty
whole conversation of
partnerships.
instant rewards.
but I voted for instant rewards.
I know
Yeah.
that's
For me, it was like kind of the
Same.
same, basically. Yeah,
Okay.
same, but different.
Yeah, but like I said, a lot of synergy between your two, like the voting from you guys, and the biggest discrepancies have been mine. So again, I also didn't vote for the spike in novelty strategic brand partnerships. In hindsight, I'm not 100% sure why I didn't vote for that one as opposed to the other ones. I mean, just thinking about it, it feels pretty clear, but yeah, I think there were some other ones. I think it's going to be most interesting when we get to the one vote areas and I have to sort of defend myself when voting for things that neither of you guys voted for. But yeah. What do you think? I mean, do you understand, or do you sort of feel my reasoning for the other two? So number 1, the extracting maximum loyalty value versus the currency consolidation?
Plus minus. I think that I mean, if we go through them, I mean, AI, my perspective, will have a big impact on loyalty itself. I mean, even we internally are think about different use cases, how to use AI as a consumer to actually get the most amount of value out of this loyalty program. So I think that will be for sure a big topic in 26, which was already in 25. I think nobody really figured out how to use AI correctly for loyalty programs. But I think 26 will see much more coming into this direction, because there is just, and as a consumer, I'm thinking, for example, about, and honestly, with everyone I'm talking about loyalty programs, everybody's saying the same thing. They don't have the overview of what they have. So capturing all that data, telling me which loyalty program I should use in which moment, which benefits didn't I use yet. There are so many use cases where AI really can help a lot consumers to just get more value out of these loyalty programs. And on the other side, it just means that if, as a consumer, I can get more value out of these loyalty programs, I'm much more engaged with those brands. So for me, that makes absolutely sense that will come much more in 26. The whole topic of currency consolidation and strategic brand partnerships, I think, again, that's, I mean, daily bread for us. So for me, that's kind of an obvious topic that will move more and more in that direction. The topic that you mentioned before regarding payback and coalitions, I'm not a big believer in coalitions, in the sense that it's just too narrow for me as a consumer, where I can earn and spend my points. So I really believe in big loyalty ecosystems where the more options I have to earn and spend my points, the more liquidity, the more liquid my loyalty currency becomes. So if I want to push engagement as a brand, I just need to create more and more partnerships within my loyalty program so that I can give my users more value. So from that perspective, that is something that is absolutely, I would say, a continued trend. And again, more and more brands will engage into that part. Again,
Well,
zero
maybe I
friction for
can-
me. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna dive into my thought process, but please dive into the zero friction.
No, I just wanted to comment on the last three, basically zero friction. Makes absolutely sense. For me, that goes more into the direction of what we discussed before with instant rewards, etc. And the topic of credit cards vs debit cards, I think that's more distribution topic, in the sense that you have a lot of people that really can't get a credit card because of how do you call it? In German, it's Bonitätsprüfung.
Credit
How do you say
scores.
it? Thank you, credit scores.
Yeah.
And so debit cards actually offer a possibility for people to still use a card, but again, not go through all of that credit score assessment, and gives me possibility to again earn more rewards to that card. So I think there's for sure, also for younger generations, there's for sure a big topic on that side. And gamification, again, also they're thinking just about new generations. I think those are all connected to new generations because they just want instant gratification. They
Mhm.
want some gamified experience because they're just used to game. So automatically you want to get the same experience and the same feeling when you use a loyalty program. And on the other side, as a young student, my credit score might not be the craziest. I don't have a salary yet. I don't really have a lot of assets yet. So a debit card is much more suitable for me than a credit card.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah. And just to deliver just a little bit of background thinking on the currency consolidation topic, is that when I was actually going through these things and going for votes and thinking about what's going to be a trend, it was actually looking, and I was kind of trying to imagine sort of headlines based on each of the topics and which ones would be more likely to actually receive headlines. And for me, when it comes to 2026 in particular, I sort of have the feeling that, and maybe this is just me personally, and maybe I have a bit more of an outsider perspective versus people that are actually building in, even though I've been, with you guys now for a little while. It's the feeling of, and we've covered a couple of episodes on this as well. Companies have been still working on and putting a good deal of focus, at least I feel, on their own sort of loyalty platforms and rewards and everything. And when it comes to the currency consolidation aspect, I kind of see almost those two things, and maybe I'm wrong here, but as almost separate, or two separate topics to actually talk about. Because when you're talking about rewarding your customers versus having a currency that you can spend in other places, I feel like those might be two branches that end up diverging at a certain point. And that's why I was sort of split when it came to this particular decision. But yeah, that's basically my thought process behind that one. I just wanted to clarify that one real quick.
One
Yeah.
One thing that I was curious about, back to again also to the currency consolidation. One thing that I'm not 100% sure that I would like you to elaborate on, Gabriele, is when you say coalitions don't offer as big of an option pool for consumers versus reward ecosystems. Aren't coalitions the same thing as a reward ecosystem, because there's various businesses that offer the same currency? So if I go to shop A, I can use this, I get points that I can use at shop B, C, D, and F or E. And
No,
isn't a rewards ecosystem very similar in that sense?
basically the rewards ecosystem gives you just more options. So a coalition is based on, I don't know, I have a grocery store, I have a gas station brand. I have, I don't know, a pharmacy brand, etc. So I have X amount of brands that are in this coalition, and there I can earn and spend my points. So closed loop, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 brands, right, that are in there, and that should cover all your needs, or most of your needs, basically, where you can earn your points, right? Now, and again, like, they basically do a coalition together. You have one reward currency that is being used by all of them. Now, if you look at rewards ecosystem, there you have one brand, let's say a bank has their credit card, issues their points to you, and now they partner up with a lot of different brands where you can then use, for example, your points, or you can earn additional points. Same as with an airline, as an example. So I think that it just offers you many more options, a reward ecosystem for you as a user to actually earn and spend your rewards, compared to a coalition, which is very fixed on that specific model. And if I remember correctly, the how do you call it? The similar product like Payback in the US was Plenty, if I remember correctly.
I remember
and it
that.
didn't and it didn't work at all. So for example, US coalitions, super difficult to actually execute it. So I really think that rewards ecosystem will win long term compared to coalitions, because it just, again, from a liquidity perspective, and if then it's a bit like currency, like I need to be able to earn it at different places, and I need to be able to spend it at different places. And the more earn and spend options I have, the more liquid this currency becomes. So automatically, if you look from that perspective, a coalition just has less liquidity than an ecosystem itself.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Yeah, coalition is more us, and ecosystem is, let's see how many we can collaborate.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Then I think we can move on to the one vote places. An interesting little tidbit with the one votes, actually. The person with the most single votes is me. I think no big surprise there. And interestingly enough, again, like I said, you guys tend to be aligned in a lot of the places. There's only one category where Gabriela is the only vote. So we're gonna dive into this in a second, but I think this should be a very interesting one. And honestly, I think you'll be able to defend this one quite valiantly. But let's take a look. So with one vote, enterprise programs battle low switching costs for unsatisfied members. The battle with loyalty fraudsters heats up. Relevance replaces volume in customer communications. Less messages, but each message has a clear purpose. The year AI-powered loyalty personalization becomes the main story. We have zero-party data exchanges, rewarding users for sharing their preferences and intent. Stronger community and peer advocacy, rewarding users for community contributions like reviews, answering questions, creating content. So we got a pretty long list here. Where should we begin? I'm wondering.
Can you say which ones were voted by whom, so that we get that?
I was going to get into that. Yes, yes. All right. So for the enterprise programs battle low switching costs, that is you, Gianluca.
That was me. Okay.
The battle with loyalty fraudsters is myself. The relevance replacing volume is also myself. The AI-powered loyalty personalization is also myself. The one that Gabriela voted for singularly is the zero-party data exchanges. And then the stronger community and peer advocacy, rewarding users for communicating, etc., for community contributions, is also myself. So looking back, actually, yeah, Gianluca, you also only have the one place where you have the one vote. So I think maybe that could be an interesting exercise. You guys have to defend your single votes.
Why?
I'll do a cliff notes on mine just because I have 4, but yeah. Maybe we can start with you, Gabriela. Zero-party data exchanges, rewarding users for sharing their preferences and intent. I think we have talked about this on a previous episode, but yeah,
Why?
it's an interesting topic. And sorry.
Oh, wow.
But why?
I'm gonna dive in. Wait, let me get the headline out because we did have an article with this that was out here. How zero-party data will shape loyalty. Gen Z will share with brands. So I guess it's no big surprise that data and collecting data is a big proponent of any of these big digital businesses. Is that kind of one of the pieces of reasoning that came into you voting for this particular trend for 2026?
I mean, I just think that if you look at the landscape, the whole data topic gets more and more sensitive in the sense that there are more restrictions coming in where basically getting data from customers without any clear opt-ins that they really understand what kind of data are they sharing, etc., will become more and more difficult. So let's say the time where you can just get all the data through the app store, for example, if you issue an app and you can just get all kinds of data about what is the user doing without informing them, without asking them for permission, etc., is slowly dying. So you as a brand need to think about, okay, how do I actually get the data directly from my customer so that I'm on the safe side, and I can basically evolve my products accordingly. Now, one of the easiest way is just to reward customers for it. So you actually tell them, hey, look, for all the data that you're generating that is valuable for me as a company, again, the same logic as if you generate revenue for me because you buy my products, I actually reward you, right? So I think this will be going forward more and more of a topic. Again, zero-party data means I get it directly from my customer. I don't go and buy the data. I don't go and get fetch the data from some other places, third parties. I get it directly from my customer. And from that perspective, I think that you can do a lot of things with rewards where you basically tell your customers, hey, as an example, fill out the survey, give me some information about you, and you get some data, right? Or if you think about loyalty ecosystems, the more brands you use, the more, for example, rewards you get. Because if I, as a loyalty program owner, can see where does my customer actually earn and spend their miles or points, I have much a better picture of who is that customer and what are they doing in their daily life. So, and that can be what kind of gym are you using, which hairdresser are you using, what kind of restaurants are you going to. So all of these topics basically give you as a company much more insights into who your customers are, and that helps you to develop your products better, develop your pricing better, just give more value to your customers, right? And so I think it goes hand in hand. And for me, loyalty programs are the strongest form to get zero-party data, and connecting them to rewards is kind of a no-brainer. It's just like, it just feels right. You just ask your customers for data, you reward them for that. So that's why I think this will, with all the restrictions coming on the data topic, plus being it a no-brainer from a rewards program perspective, I think that goes hand in hand and will be pushed more and more in the next couple of years.
Yeah, when you put it that way, it definitely does make a lot of sense. I mean, again, I learned about this just a while ago, that that you have the term zero-party data, which is literally the opt-in version. If somebody says something or shares something directly with you, that is zero-party data, and it is seen in businesses as the most valuable form of like customer data that you can have, just because it comes straight from the horse's mouth, essentially. And you have this, and people have been sort of, you kind of see it everywhere, right? Would you like to take this survey? Would you like to answer a couple of questions, et cetera, because that is seen as very valuable data by people from the company. And yeah, it's true to share something like that, and to combine it with a loyalty program. I mean, yeah, when you mention it like that, it does make sense, because people will share their opinions on stuff. For example, I mean, it's almost harder to do with a bigger brand, but like if you're talking about phones, for example, right? Apple versus I don't know, Samsung versus whatever. People will deliver their true and honest and very uncensored thoughts on the social media platforms, on stuff like that. But if you don't have access to that, then it's better to do so directly there, and to actually then I guess the best way to say is like reward people for actually providing valuable data like that. So it does make a lot of sense. And like you were mentioning, you know, the barriers for these things are going to become higher and higher. We have proof of human becoming more and more of an important term as time goes by. So, you know, retina scans, biometric data, actually making sure that you're like an authentic human being versus a bot. Yeah, I guess all of that would definitely sort of play into that narrative. And if this is a narrative that happens this year, I mean, so much the better. I got my eyes scanned by the WorldCoin thing in Munich. Felt a little invasive, but honestly, it also feels a little bit interesting knowing that everybody that has that tick on their thing has actually done that and is a verified human. So definitely an interesting one. But let's move over to Gianluca's singular vote, which was the enterprise programs battle low switching costs for unsatisfied customers. And I honestly very much see where you're coming from with that one, because it is a very interesting one. And that is something that's kind of at the forefront of, I guess, every company's radar is, you know, if people don't like the program or if they don't like the product or whatever, they can just leave. And those switching costs, you know, it's part of, I guess it falls into the sort of retention conversation, doesn't it? So maybe you can dive into that one in particular, Gianluca, and explain the why you think it's going to be a particularly relevant one in this case.
Just before we go there, if you go back to the polls for the, or I can maybe do it as well. Yeah, for the one vote, wasn't there the year A-powered loyalty personalization? No. The battle with loyalty fraudsters heats up. Just to that one, it's funny that you said proof of human. I was just thinking in the back of my head that imagine all the personalization, all the zero-party data that, you know, brands or businesses start collecting and start asking for and rewarding for. You just have an army of AI agents that you give a narrative and story script of this is who you are, and just go ahead and answer all those servers and just collect rewards for me. I was thinking that proof of human.
Thank you for validating my vote. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, regarding the enterprises program battle, low switching costs for unsatisfied users or members, even, that's, to me, it's just, honestly, this one is just the age-old conversation that we've had since the beginning of the podcast, and honestly, since the beginning of us even going into loyalty, is what is loyalty, you know, of a member in a loyalty program or in a business, and it is becoming more and more prominent, especially with more loyalty programs coming out, everyone battling for the best benefits or trying to give the best benefits, and in the end also making it as easy as possible to be part of a loyalty program. I mean, it really doesn't take much, especially nowadays. If you have Google, Facebook, Twitter, or any of the social logins, you literally create an account with one click. I mean, you use your other accounts to create a new account, you're done. You don't even need to put anything in, and you're part of the program, and you can start earning points. And if you like the benefits of one loyalty program more than the other, and they're the same approximate product category with the same approximate products, yeah, of course you're gonna say, I get 10% more points there, or I get this kind of experience there versus here. Let me switch, or at least let me open an account and check and test it out and see if I like it. If I do, I'll switch completely over. So for me, that one was honestly why I picked this, because it was really just that. And funny thing is, before you were mentioning Apple and Samsung, one of the biggest battles, if you want to call it that I've seen happening in the mobile phone industry is between Google and Apple. And it's so interesting how on both, or Android and iOS, I'm not sure how to frame it or phrase it exactly, but let's say Apple and Google, Android and iOS, both parties have literal apps installed, or like core apps installed, where you can easily switch from the other one to this one. You know, it's like, don't worry, you have an Android. Will literally, you just attach, you hook it up to your new iPhone, and you can transfer everything, and everything's going to be the same. You have an Android phone or a Google phone, no problem. Attach your iPhone to it. You can switch over in a heartbeat. If you see these giants doing it, it is a real topic. So it's free again. Just to maybe put it into one phrase, for me, it's a no-brainer that this is a battle that is happening and will continue to happen, honestly.
It's kind of also the fundamental driver, I guess, that actually fuels a lot of these other trends at the end of the day, is to actually help to combat all of that, right? So it's kind of interesting. You have this Ouroboros, snake eating its own tail thing, where you want to make rewards and everything more liquid, but if the rewards are a lot more accessible and easily claimed, then it's also easier to leave and switch to something else.
Yeah, and everyone's doing it.
Exactly. So the question then becomes, companies then have to innovate. They have to think. They have to ponder and sort of think about how they can then retain their customers while still maintaining that sort of level of keeping it easy and simple for them to switch. Because again, the customers also aren't stupid, right? I mean, the switching between, for example, Android and Apple, like you mentioned, is pretty clear, because if they didn't have that, people would be in the streets, right? It would seem very predatory. It would seem very taking advantage of people, and it seems very restricting. And Gabriella keeps mentioning freedom, and it feels like you're removing someone's freedom if you were to do something like that, right? So that definitely feels relevant in this case. Yeah, I mean, that's a good one. That's a good defense, 100%. I'll kind of speed run mine, just because I feel like I think people want to hear more from you guys than they do from me. When it comes to the battle with loyalty fraudsters, I just think, again, if the police bring semi-automatics, the criminals bring automatics. I think it's just as technology improves, so do the frauds, and so do the naysayers. And I think I could see headlines coming in the future of, this guy used an AI program to somehow legally use a loophole and claim like tens of thousands worth of miles or points with this program. I could see something like that happening. Relevance replaces volume in customer communications. I have always tended to err towards the side of authenticity when it comes to brands and communications, and I just, as a consumer, would rather get a couple of interesting messages that I would be more likely to open than to be spammed by ones that I would then be less likely to open. For the AI-powered loyalty personalization, honestly, I think there might just be some exhaustion on this topic, because it feels like we get into it with every single episode that we have. But I do think that in that sort of area, I do think that we're only seeing the beginning, or at least we only saw the beginning of that in 2025. Like we were talking about, like in one of our first episodes, I think episode 1 or 2, we were talking about the AI use case in loyalty and how it hasn't really been, fully set in stone yet, and it's still being explored by a lot of these companies. And I think that lately we have actually seen more and more of these use cases being used and experimented with. And I think that's going to continue on into 2026. That was kind of my methodology behind that one. And then for the community and peer advocacy rewarding users, I sort of was thinking about the L'Oreal program for micro-influencers that they had brought out that apparently is working quite well. And that is also, an interesting way to sort of introduce people and make them loyal to a brand where there might have been zero loyalty in the first place, and getting people with those followings that have potential to grow and become bigger and form relationships with these brands felt important to me. But yeah, is there anything else that you guys want to cover or talk about or mention before we go over the couple of topics that actually had 0 votes from us?
I think maybe only on the fraud topic. I think it's super difficult to mix zero friction, instant rewards, etc., with, let's say, keeping fraudster away from the program, in the sense that they can't abuse the system. And I mean, there's this topic right now in the US regarding a lot of fraud on the healthcare system part, where you basically, like in Minnesota, for example, there's a topic where they, I think, I don't know how many billions of dollars have been basically distributed to fraudsters because the system is so simple and nobody really checks it and nobody really audits it. So it's super difficult if you have on a government level, you see how many billions of dollars are being lost because of fraudsters and because the system is so easy, right? And so simple. Balancing it with you actually want to help as a government and you want to give them money to people that actually need it, right? So it happens on that level. It's kind of logic that it happens also on a smaller level, like a loyalty program, right? And
true.
I mean, I remember a lot of people, what they did, for example, with Revolut is they used their Miles & More card to charge a Revolut account. So they sent money from their credit card to the account. It was seen from the credit card provider or issuer as a transaction. So if I sent, I don't know, $10,000, I actually got 10,000 miles, right, for that transaction. But what they did is then sending the money back to the card. So I just had 10K on my Revolut account. I sent it back to the credit card to pay basically the bill, right? And so I got 3 miles. Now it doesn't work anymore because they got it. But those
is that a
things
loophole or is that fraud? You know, that's another question at the end of the day.
Yeah, or is it a legit transaction? Because if I use actually that money then on Revolut, like why shouldn't I get my miles on my credit card, right? So it's kind of, that's why I'm saying like that balance is super difficult, because at the end of the day, you need to understand what kind of patterns fraudsters do and what kind of patterns do normal users do, right? That actually use the system. And then understand how you can go around it. Because if you want to optimize for fraudsters, most probably you will, sorry for the wording, will piss off your existing customers that actually use the system in the right way, because you create so many barriers that the current customers actually don't want to use it because it's just too much work, right? And on the other side, if you optimize for your customers to make it as frictionless and as easy as possible, you will increase the amount of fraud. So getting it right is, I would say, it's pretty hard. And again, it's like, it's not a problem of loyalty programs. It's a problem of humanity. There are people that just want to abuse systems. So as long as you have that, you will have to think about rules and ways to actually block these fraudsters, but not like block whole societies.
Welcome to the All In Philosophy podcast.
Oh yeah. I mean, I love it. It seems like it's always a balancing act. That's kind of been the conclusion of most of a lot of these things. You know, there's never just a one size fits all solution that's just going to fix every problem. I mean, I think proof of human is going to, I mean, the whole digital identity thing is going to continue to be a big trend, and I think that is probably going to help a lot. But again, as governments and companies evolve, so do criminals and fraudsters, right? So I'm sure that there's going to be some sort of thing that they come up with that's going to be able to play the system, and that's going to end up making headlines too.
100%.
All right. So final stage, the unpopular votes, the ones that nobody cared about. No, just kidding. It's not that they're bad. It's just that they are maybe less relevant than some of the other points. But the ones that got 0 points, number 1, green loyalty. Interestingly, I don't know what the agenda is there, but that has come up in almost every single like sort of trend predictor, whatever thing for 2026. I don't see it at all, personally. But I don't know, maybe there's some other takes that defend it or something, but I went through a lot of different articles and most of them mention green loyalty. Then mobility and financial service brands break into the loyalty elite. I think the idea there being that some of the bigger sort of, mobility brands, the Ubers, the Waymos, the Lyfts of the world, ends up becoming a very talked about sort of loyalty ecosystem. loyalty becoming more of a two-way street. So talking about sort of the expectations from the customer versus the brands. I think it makes a lot of sense there that none of us voted for that because people don't want brands to demand too much of their customers. I think that makes quite a bit of sense. The Phygital experience is using AR and geolocation to reward customers based on where they are. Yeah, I found that one was like interesting, yes, and definitely relevant, but just not like important enough to consider being in the top 10.
Yeah.
I don't know. Gianluca, you feel like you want to say something.
Yeah, just regarding that. I mean, I honestly, since we have started doing our business back now, which year are we in? 26 now? It was 14 years ago. And we were in the physical realms of loyalty already back then. And that's 14 years ago. People were talking about these beacons, I think they were called, store beacons, that you have at the entrance or near entrances of stores. And when you walk by them with your phone, you get a pop-up notification, a push notification saying, hey, you're just next to, I don't know, Starbucks, let's say. Why don't you come on in? You get 10% off your first coffee of the day. I don't know, I'm just inventing something right now. And they were talking about how these beacons are going to revolutionize the marketing, communication, and in this case, reward industry. How it's going to, be no matter where you are, you can push these communications, you can reward your customers. 14 years later, and I don't see anything like that. So I'm not really sure that this is going to become, at least in 2026, I 100% don't see it at
But does
all.
it then surprise you actually seeing this prediction here, considering it was already there like that many years ago?
The only thing that I would say now that I see in this is obviously the topic of AR that is becoming greater. I think I've heard Mark Zuckerberg talk about it. I've seen also, I think, talks at Google that were speaking about it, and a few other bigger brands that are in the AR space talking about how the next mobile phone or the next evolution of the mobile phone will be AR, or at least wearables like glasses. It doesn't have to be AR specifically, but wearable like glasses that, you sort of, you see the real world and you interact with the digital world on top of the real world. So I definitely see AR coming more and more, and that becoming a topic that I think will be massive, but 100% not 2026. Forget about that. They first need to figure out what AR is. People need to even understand what AR is, and even just literally physically become acquainted with it, because we still haven't, I don't think there's any person that has worn AR glasses and
not yet
on a let's say on a retail consumer level. It's all been maybe prototypes or betas or super early awesome products that you could buy that you test, but no, forget about that. 100% no.
I think, yeah, you're right. I think the trend sort of started because we did see at CES this year, for example, that like over half of the booths and stuff were AR glasses, but like they're not in every household yet. That's like kind of the assumption that it'll start when everybody actually owns one the same way they would a phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, let's jump over to your feedback, Gabriela. Anything, any instant like things jumping out here that that you want to mention?
I mean, maybe to start directly with the physical experiences, I think that's more of a topic that there is a use case. Like on the AR side, there is a use case missing, a clear one. I think this honestly started all with Pokemon Go. It was such a crazy hype where everybody was walking around with their phones catching these Pokemons. or trying to catch these Pokemons, and a lot of brands thought, oh, I need the same. It goes for me a bit in the gamification topic. The issue is that Pokemon Go is one specific game. Everybody knows it. Like, everybody knows Pokemon. So most of the people that actually were already in that community kind of started using it from a curiosity perspective, or just because they love Pokemon, etc. And everybody was using the same thing. So it was a clear kind of culture behind it, right? And that's why it was so successful. If you think, and honestly, I don't even know if it's today still successful, because since the hype, I didn't hear about it anymore. So when we talk with certain brands, I want to build a new loyalty program. I heard it just a few weeks ago. Somebody said, like something like Pokemon Go. And I'm like, okay, but like,
But why?
Yeah, but really why? At the end of the day, it is a gimmick. It's not a feature. Like, it's kind of something that, yeah, it could be fun for a certain period of time. It can be a campaign, for example, to just gamify a bit the experience, but I don't see it as a very clear use case. Like, I spend money, I get points, right? So, or I make a product survey and I get some points.
Yeah.
That's why for me that one is very difficult. The topic of geolocation is just a matter of, it's not just geolocation. Like, a lot of brands, marketing agencies, etc., think that if you have the geolocation data and you can actually, if a customer passes my store, I can give them a notification about something. There is so much more data missing from that side that actually then produces a purchase, where geolocation is just not enough. So yeah, you can tell your customer when he passes by your store that there is an amazing offer. He doesn't need your product in that moment. It just doesn't matter. So there is so much more data that needs to be connected to the geolocation, where you actually understand the customer needs right now my product, and I can inform in that moment that, hey, you're just passing by. We have, by the way, a special offer, and we know you anyways want to buy it, right? So, and I'll make a simple example. Like, if my customer buys every 20 days the same product, right? And now we're at day 18, and I see my customer passing the store, in that moment, it makes sense to inform, by the way, we have an offer on the product you're actually buying, and we know plus minus that you need it in the next 2-3 days. So
yeah,
that helps much more than just you're in front of our store, hey, go buy something. So I think that doesn't really help a lot. That's why, for me, again, this went more towards the whole gamification topic. That's why I didn't choose it. Green loyalty, to be fully honest, I just have the feeling that not enough people care about the world and how sustainable we live. No, let's
That's one way of putting it.
Let's face it. A lot of people just look at their needs, and I'm the same. Like, I know that.
But with some frequent flyer programs or some airlines, you do get more points for
that is true
for paying for extra CO2 carbon offsets. That's interesting to see.
That is true, 100%. And it makes sense because the company themselves, they can basically offset all their CO2 expenses and so on. So that makes sense, but I just have the feeling that not enough people care about it. That's why I didn't really pick up. Mobility and financial services. Financial services, I don't get it all, to be fully honest. Like, banks are one of the first ones actually going to the loyalty game. So I don't get why financial services suddenly have to break into the loyalty elite. They are, like, if you look at American Express, they are loyalty elite. Mobility, it makes a lot of sense. What you said from like all the how do you call it? The Ubers, Lyfts, etc. But I also think that car manufacturers, because at the end of the day, you have that after sales process where people, you want to get them back, do, I don't know, maintenance, change their tires, buy maybe additional products, I don't know, the bag of that specific car brand, etc. So that makes sense, but it's not a super frequent topic. How many times do you change your tires a year? Twice. How many times you have to go to do a service at your car? Maybe every 1 or 2 years. So the frequency of actually being rewarded and thinking about that company is super small. So That's why for me that wasn't, let's say, relevant enough.
Understood.
And loyalty becomes more of a two-way street. It feels like
Sounds
I
like
don't
an
know.
entitlement.
First of all, it sounds like an entitlement, and second of all, it sounds like it wasn't a two-way street. I mean, literally, you go buy something, you get points, and you can use those points for whatever you want. So I think it's more, again, a liquidity topic, like what do I actually get for my points or for my miles, right? And that's that there might be an issue, but that has nothing to do that the brand doesn't want to reward you, or it's not a two-way street. It's more a matter of how liquid are certain points or not. That's why I didn't choose all of them.
Makes sense. All of them make sense. We just have a couple of minutes, though. I think we made it pretty good in time. Are there any final takeaways from any of these predictions that you guys would like to mention, or any sort of send-offs before I close out the show? Let's start with you, Gabriele.
Do I have any send-offs? No, I don't have any send-offs. No, it was interesting to discuss all these trends. I'm really excited to see what actually then sticks in 26, and what kind of trends we'll actually see. Again, I think AI will be a big topic. Partnerships will be a big topic, and I got the feeling also gamification. Again, the more we're going forward, the more of a topic will be, because you just have a change of. Basically, you have a change of customers that are entering a loyalty program, and younger generations just have different needs than older ones. So these loyalty programs will have to adapt to that.
100%. Gianluca, how about you?
Just very curious to go into the next podcast in a couple of weeks, and we should definitely keep these poll results always present, because it's going to be so cool to see from podcast to podcast this year, to see which ones are hitting, and whether our 0 votes or our unanimous votes and all in between are actual predictions that we got. And
I already can't wait for the end of the year episode that we do this year, where we go over everyone's predictions and how correct or incorrect they were, only to find that all 4 of mine that I only voted for are all the correct ones, and ends up being the most forefront things. I'm just kidding. But guys, thank you so much for your breakdowns. Much appreciated. Guys, don't forget, this has been the All In Loyalty podcast. Always follow, always share, and always give your own impressions, what your predictions are, how you think 2026 is going to be looking like in the loyalty industry. It's looking to be a very, very exciting one. I think you guys are noticing as it continues to make headlines. Banks, businesses, crypto exchanges, whatever it is, everybody is starting to take loyalty incredibly seriously, to the point where it's starting to be number 1 on everybody's dockets. Be sure to follow all of our socials as well that are also going to be on the commentary here. But with that, guys, looking forward to the next episode, where we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming, going over all of the latest loyalty headlines. And until then, we will see you in the next one. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care.
Ciao, guys. Bye-bye. Take care.